Welcome, everyone. This is our last lecture in the sense-making lecture series. This is a series that's been initiated by GRAIL, the Global Research Alliance for AI and Learning in Education. We've been running a series of webinars and opportunities just to hear from experts around the world that are doing different interesting and provocative things around AI. And if you look at our website, GRAIL with an E at the end, .ai, we have a list of previous lectures, previous webinars that you may be interested in tracking or just paying a little bit of attention to. Today, I'm pleased to announce Antonija Mitrovic. She's a full professor at the Department of Computer Science and Engineering with the University of Canterbury in Christchurch, New Zealand, one of my favorite places to visit. She leads the Intelligent Computer Tutoring Group and has been active in this domain, AI, and related areas for many, many years. Her research interests are really focused on student modeling, looking at a number of, for lack of a better word, constraint-based intelligent tutoring systems that exist in a number of domains, and they've been used extensively in real classrooms and have essentially been determined to be very effective and impactful. The reason I say that is, as you're probably all aware of, we're in the middle of this big agentification of AI right now, where everybody's building an agent, everyone's building a bot. And a lot of people maybe aren't quite aware there's an enormous body of research that supports existing work in this domain. Had a chat recently with a colleague, Art Gracer, that was sharing some of the work that he'd been doing in this domain over the years as well. And it's, whatever is old is new again, or new is old again, whatever the term is. But I'm really delighted to have Professor Mitrovic join us today. I will hand it over to her. I'll track video or questions or comments if there's any that arise during the talk, and I'll present them to her later. So welcome and thank you.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me. So I'll share my screen first. So the topic of my talk today is AI-based nudges for learning from videos. And this is a project I have been working on since 2015. It started by actually talking to Vanya Dimitrova from the University of Leeds, and we were talking about how we developed a lot of AI-based educational systems for different hard skills, cognitive skills. But there was not much we have done, and others also, about teaching soft skills. So that was the initial idea, and we said, okay, let's see whether we can develop something for teaching soft skills. And when we started with that, we were thinking probably video-based learning would be the best option to go with. Of course, video-based learning is used in a variety of settings, ranging from formal settings, MOOCs, flipped classrooms, but also for informal learning. However, there are some problems with video-based learning, as you all know. So quite often, a person can just passively watch videos and don't really engage deeply with the material that's presented. So this low engagement comes from different factors. There is no feedback, of course, when you're just watching a video. There's a lack of interaction with teachers and other students. So Vanya and I were thinking that we should probably start with a simpler approach. In video-based learning, there are some strategies for supporting engagement. So, for example, if it's used in a classroom situation, after presenting the video, it's possible to have a discussion about the video. There are also several research attempts to increase the engagement by adding quizzes or problems, questions, different kinds of things into the videos themselves, but they require additional effort from teachers because they have to modify these videos. So what we wanted was something that will not increase the amount of work the teachers have to do drastically. So we decided to use existing videos, and we decided to use interactive note-taking. So students would be watching videos and making comments about the videos. And of course, that's not enough. So we were thinking right from the start about adding some AI-based personalized support. Now, videos are useful for teaching soft skills because for soft skills, you need to think about your own experience. You have to reflect on your own experience while observing other situations in which people exhibit those particular soft skills. So that's why we started with VBL. And what we did was we developed this platform that we call AVW-Space, Active Video Watching Space. In AVW-Space, there are two different spaces, actually. The private space is where the student would be watching a video and you have a screenshot. I'll show you the demo of the platform in a few minutes. So here we have the student watching a tutorial video on how to open and close presentations. They can play the video, and whenever they want, they can add a comment. To add a comment, they would have to type the text into the box, and they also have to select one of these aspects. We call them aspects. So we spent a lot of time thinking about this because we wanted to focus students' attention on their own experience, their previous experience with giving presentations. So the aspects are, I'm rather good at this, or I did or saw this in the past, I didn't realize I wasn't doing this, and I like this point. So once when they add a comment, it appears in the list of their previous comments, and that's how interactive note-taking is happening in this particular space. Now, we also have the social space, and in the social space, what happens is that we open the comments written by a class to everyone. They're anonymized, so the students can review what other people have written, and they can also rate those comments. So for rating, we defined rating categories. And again, these rating categories tell us what the student is thinking about. This is useful for me, or I hadn't thought of this, I didn't notice this. So they are learning from comments written by other students in the class. And we also have, I don't agree, and I like this point. So that's what happens in the social space, and the intent was to support social learning from others. So that was what the early version of AVW-Space looked like. As I said, we looked at a number of different soft skills, but the first one was presentation skills. Both Vanya and I come from computer science departments, and we have seen that our students very often have trouble presenting. So to specify a new space in AVW-Space, the teacher would need to select publicly available YouTube videos. So we are not requesting teachers to create new videos. In this particular space for presentation skills, we have 4 tutorial videos, so videos that teach about how to give presentations. And then we also have 4 examples of real presentations, again, videos from YouTube. And the microscaffolds that we use for supporting learning and self-regulation include aspects and the rating categories. With this particular space, we have done 14 studies with more than 2,000 students, some with postgraduate students from various universities, but most of them were done in a course here at the University of Canterbury that's Engineering 101. This particular course is a mandatory course for every engineering students at my university. And typically the size of this course is about 1,000 students. In the course, they learn about various techniques that are essential for engineers. They also work on the Engineers Without Borders project, and they work on the project in groups. And finally, at the very end of the course, this is a single semester course. So at the end of the course, they give a presentation. However, there is no space in the course to teach them how to give presentations. So we give them this online training for presentation skills, and I'll show you some of the results in a few minutes. We have developed the presentation skills ontology, which we use to analyze comments that I will show you later on. And the typical experiment design that we use for presentation skills is like this. So we have a survey at the start of the study where we have some demographic data. We also give them 3 questions. We tell them to write about the structure of presentations, to write about visual aids and delivery and speech. So anything they can think of, it could be just single words or phrases, and we give them 1 minute per question. The purpose of this question is repeated in latest surveys as well. And the purpose of this question is to see how much students know about presentation skills. So kind of measuring their conceptual knowledge about this skill. After that, we have phase 1, in which they use the personal space, so they're watching videos on their own, they're taking notes as they do that. Then we have survey 2, where we repeat the conceptual knowledge questions. We had some other instruments like TAM and TLX to see what they think about the different functionalities in AVW-Space. And then after that, they have about 2 weeks for phase 2 as well, where they're reviewing and rating comments written by the class. And finally, we have the last survey. So when we conducted a few early studies, what we have seen is that students who wrote comments and also rated comments written by others, they have learned more. Students who were just passive, no writing comments, no rating comments, didn't learn much. So basically that was the additional evidence that microscaffolds have positive effect on learning. But we have also heard from students that writing comments is demanding. They were not sure what to write about and what to pay attention to. So we analyzed some of the data from early studies, and we have seen that there are different types of students as expected. So on this graph, you can see a group of students which we call habitual video watchers. So these are students who wrote some comments, but not very many of them. And this network shows the different students and the different keywords, domain keywords that they have used and how they're connected to each other. So there are some links, but not many comments really. Now, a very different group, the group that we call self-regulated learners, who have written more comments, used more keywords from the domain vocabulary. And we identify this type of behavior as the desired behavior. So at that point, we were thinking, how can we move students from being passive or writing very few comments to this desired behavior? And the way to do that, we decided that we are going to give them nudges. So the nudge theory is very popular. Nudge theory was proposed by Richard Taylor and Cass Sunstein from the University of Chicago, where basically they say it's kind of a libertarian paternalism approach. So we don't restrict freedom to choose, but we change the environment in a subtle way so that people are more likely to make good decisions. And to do this, of course, you have to think about the choice architecture. So we want to design the platform in our case to maximize capability to regulate their own behavior, to increase motivation to engage in the desired behavior. So writing more comments, rating more comments, and maximize opportunity to support self-regulation. So I'll show you now what kind of nudges we developed. We started with simple nudges, which we call reminder nudges. And what happens with these nudges is that if the student is just passively watching a video, let's say the student has watched the first third of the video and has not written any comments, they're going to get what we call the no comment reminder nudge. And this will be just a short hint which says, how about writing some comments? We have seen in previous situations that students who write comments learn more, something like that. So just giving them a hint. If they continue watching the video without, again, commenting, we are going to give them the second type of nudge, no comment reference point nudge, which tells them it might be a good idea to write a comment. And this is something, we give them an example comment, something that someone else has written as a reference point. There are also nudges that deal with the aspects they used. So, for example, if the student has only used the I like this aspect and not the others, they're going to see a nudge telling them, how about using this particular aspect and writing about something different. And finally, the last nudge is a positive nudge. So this is given to a student who has written a diverse set of comments, used different aspects and so on. Now, this is how nudges are shown in a very early version of the platform. So in this screenshot, you can see a student is watching a video. There were some comments, but the student has both comments that are written, use the I like this point aspect, and they're getting a nudge which tells them, ask them, are there any techniques that you have seen in this video that's new? And maybe you can use this aspect. I didn't realize I wasn't doing this. So kind of nudging them towards using different kinds of aspects. So the nudges will just appear as a hint on the screen. So at this point, we also did a few studies to see what's happening. And this is a brief summary of the findings from the early studies. Some of them were done with postgraduate students and others with undergraduate students. And we had a number of hypotheses, and some of them were confirmed, the others were not. So, for example, our first hypothesis was that nudges will result in more comments, and that was the fact with undergraduate students, but not with postgraduate students. And that's because postgraduate students are already better at self-regulation. They were naturally writing more comments. More learning, we have seen that in early studies in postgraduate students, but not in undergraduate students. The third hypothesis was about nudges, that they would result in a more even use of various aspects, and that was confirmed, that they would see more comment writing, positive comments, positive effect on learning, and difference in subjective opinion. I'm not going to talk about each of these in detail because there are more recent studies that I would like to talk about. So after doing the initial studies, so far we have done more than 20 studies with AVW-Space. So as you have seen, the early studies were without any nudges. Then we added reminder nudges and did some studies with those. And later on, we added quality nudges and visualization. So I'll tell you a little bit about those as well. So after the addition of reminder nudges, we did see an increase in the total number of comments written. However, some of those comments were very, very shallow. And we started thinking about adding nudges that will target the quality of comments the students were writing. So to do that, we decided to develop a machine learning model which will analyze comments as they are written and categorize them in different categories. And we developed this comment quality scheme, which categorizes comments into 5 categories. The worst category is category 1, where comments they could be irrelevant, or they could just say, yes, I like this, or nice, or they could be negative, but there is no additional justification or explanation. Category 2, so slightly higher category. So students are now writing typically short comments, but comments that only repeat the content of the video. So there is no addition. They're just repeating what they have heard. Categories 3, 4, and 5 are what we call a higher quality comments. In category 3, comments are longer. They mention points from the video, but then in addition to that, they elaborate on that. They justify why something is important. So they show critical thinking. Category 4 is what we call self-reflective. So these comments are, again, longer than the low quality comments, and in them, students reflect on their own experience and their own knowledge. And finally, category 5, self-regulating comments, comments in which the student is writing about how they are planning for their future presentations or something like that. And just to illustrate some of these examples, so low quality comment, they will just say agree or something like that. For the category 2, they're repeating, so listen to the speaker, for example. Critical and analytical, category 3, where they are elaborating on something. So in this example, we have presentations can be boring and long, where stories are more enjoyable and so on. Self-reflective comments, when they're thinking about their past experience, and the example is my past speeches have had very interesting beginnings. And then self-regulating example, I will definitely be trying to smile more throughout my next presentation. So we manually classify the comments we have collected from the early studies. We extracted some features. We used Look to find the linguistics and psychological features. We looked at how many keywords, domain-specific keywords they were using in comments and so on, what kind of aspects they're using when writing comments. And that was used to train a machine learning classifier. We, of course, did some experiments with different classifiers and decided to use a random forest classifier. So based on this, as I said, as the student is writing a comment, the comment would be automatically assessed immediately. And then based on the quality of the comment the student has written, they might get one of the quality nudges. And some of the quality nudges are dealing with low quality comments, like elaborate more or think more critically. Some of them are positive, so they will get a positive nudge saying well done when they write the first high quality comment, and then also when they write frequent high quality comments. Later, we also added visualizations. Now, visualizations are also a type of nudge. They're just more like a visual nudge, an interface nudge. And there are different types of visualizations that we added to AVW-Space. We added these checkboxes for situations when students watch videos or review comments written by others. We have added a dashboard, and we have also added quality indicators for the quality of the comment. So I will now give you a short demo. As I said, we have done a lot of studies, and we currently have 3 studies happening right now. One of them started yesterday. The early studies were done with presentation skills, but later on we looked at other types of skills, and one of them is face-to-face communication in software development meetings. So I'll go into this page just to show you what it looks like. So this I have used this page previously, so you see that in the dashboard I have watched 9 videos and commented on some videos and so on. So in a typical study, as I said earlier, in the first phase of the study, the students are using the private space to watch videos, so they will see the watch and comment link, but the review comments link is not available at that phase. Now, in the private space, so for example, if I go into this video here, I have not written any comments for this video. We also have visualizations, so some of the previous comments students have written. So these dots, each dot corresponds to one of the comments written previously, and they are colored by using the colors for different aspects. So students can see from this that there are some parts of the video where there are more comments, and they can see what the students have written. So to write a comment, I can just go into the comment box, and let's see what happens if I write a low quality comment. If I just write good and I say I like this point, and I can save it, and you see that I got this vague comment nudge because this is a low quality comment, and the nudge says this comment sounds a bit vague. Can you clarify more in your next comments? So the nudges are given in appropriate situations, we are tracking students' behavior, and then based on what they do, we give them these nudges from time to time. I just want to show you also what the second phase looks like. So in phase 2, we open comments to the class. Of course, the teacher would go through the comments and select some of them, because in some of the studies, there is a huge number of comments. In the engineering class, we typically get several thousand comments, or maybe 1,000 comments per video. So we select some of the comments, and then students can read them, they can rate them, and that's the element of the social learning, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, going back to the slides. So, as I mentioned, there are visualizations in for the different phases. There are visualizations for the dashboard, but we also have this visualization for comment quality. So the student will see the quality. If the comment is high quality, it's shown as green, and if it's kind of a lower level, it would be yellow or red. Now, I want to present you some of the results from the most recent studies. We use the ICAP framework to categorize students into different categories. ICAP framework was developed by Mickey Chi and her students, and basically they analyzed a large number of educational studies and found that if you have students behaving in different ways, we have passive, active, constructive, and interactive. Basically, passive is just receiving information, not engaging in other overt ways. Active is when students are, for example, writing comments, but these comments are not of high quality. Constructive, in our case, would be students who write high quality comments, so they are generating additional value, not just repeating what's in the videos. And in our case, for now, we don't have the interactive option, and interactive covers situations when students are discussing with other peers or teachers or an AI system, for example. So the ICAP framework says that the highest learning results are achieved in the interactive mode, and then the learning effectiveness goes down to constructive, active, and passive students. Right, so I mentioned that we have done quite a few studies in the Engineering 101 class, and this is a brief summary of what happened. So the bottom row shows the very first study, which we conducted in 2017. In this particular year, there were no nudges given, so students could write comments and review comments, but we didn't give them any nudges. And if you look at what happens in this particular case, half of the students were passive. We had some active students and very few constructive students. In 2018, we added the simple reminder nudges, and we divided the class into 2 parts. Experimental group had the reminder nudges, the control group had no nudges. And in that study, we saw the effect of reminder nudges, so there were fewer passive students in comparison to groups which had no nudges. In 2019, we had a similar kind of study, so just reminder nudges, so fewer passive, more active students, and a slight increase in constructive. In 2020 and newer studies, we used the quality nudges as well, and there is a drastic reduction in the percentage of passive students and many more constructive students. In 2021 and 22, we also added visualizations, so students got all types of nudges and they got all types of visualizations as well. And this was, again, another significant decrease in the percentage of passive students. And now we have about half of the class who are classified as constructive because they write high quality comments. So as I mentioned, the early studies were all done on presentation skills, and later on we looked at face-to-face communication in software development meetings. We did a couple of studies on empathy, and we are still working. So the next soft skill that we want to target is teamwork. But I'll show you a little bit about the communication in face-to-face meetings. So that's the space that I demoed a few minutes ago. So again, students are watching videos, tutorial videos that teach them how to communicate successfully. They can write comments using aspects, they get nudges. And we also have example videos, so examples of meetings, real meetings, some are acted and some are real meetings, and they have to comment on those meetings as well. The experimental design for these studies was slightly different. So again, we have phase 1, in which they use the private space watching the videos. In phase 2, they rate comments written by the class. But then we added a new element. So the studies for the face-to-face communication skills were done in a course here at the University of Canterbury, SENG 202. This is the second year software engineering course, and it is a project course. So it's 1 semester long. Students work on a project in groups, and they meet every week to talk about the project. So we decided to record one of their meetings, and then we have added the recording of that meeting to the AVW-Space platform. So in phase 4, they watch their own meeting and write comments about that meeting. And then in phase 5, they review comments they have written on their own meeting. So we have done 3 studies with this particular space. And this is the summary. So the first study in 2020, there were no nudges. We were just really collecting initial set of data from this study. Now this class is much smaller. So in SENG 202, we typically have between 50 and 60 students. So in 2020, there were no nudges. We had 16 passive students, 9 active, and 22 constructive. In 21 and 22, we added nudges, all nudges and visualizations, and you can see what happened. So there were no passive students. They were all writing comments. The number of active students was very low. So students who wrote low quality comments, and most of them were constructive. So nudges are effective. We did some causal modeling as well. So we looked at learning, the number of comments they write, the number of high quality comments they write, and we have seen that receiving nudges led to an increase in the knowledge score in comparison to what happens if they don't get nudges, so they are learning more. We also saw that receiving nudges led to an increase in the number of low quality comments and also an increase of the number of high quality comments. That the previous 2 findings were for presentation skills. We had the same results in communication skills. So increase in the knowledge score and increase in the number of comments students write. Now, I mentioned that in the new phase, they are now watching the team video. And we have found that students really enjoy watching their team video. They find that activity very, very useful. These are some of the comments that they have written on their team video. And some of the comments are actually about the meeting, like the first one, when they are talking about what happened in that particular meeting. But there are also comments that are highly reflective. For example, the second comment, for myself, if I was to have a meeting with someone and they had the same body language as I did in this meeting, at least in the first 10 minutes, I would get an impression that they're not interested, disengaged, not paying attention. So they're clearly reflecting on their own behavior. And the last comment, I need to deliver my ideas clearer. So that was very encouraging to see that this type of video, their own meeting, really encourages them to reflect. And at the end, in the last survey, we asked them to provide feedback on the different aspects of AVW-Space. And typically they find the team video very useful. They can see how the team works. They can see, they can provide feedback through writing comments in an anonymous way, which they also appreciate. and they said it was useful to understand the team members better. Now, the most recent study on empathy, 2023, and we are conducting one at the moment. Lots of numbers on this slide, but I wanted to point out the result in learning. So CK1 is the knowledge score from the survey 1, CK2 the mid survey, so knowledge score for that, and knowledge score at the end of the study, and we have significant increase in knowledge score. So they are learning from these videos. In this particular study, all students watched the team video. They all wrote comments on the team videos, and we have analyzed them. So, for example, we looked at the valence. Are they positive comments or negative? And most of the comments were positive. So the total number of positive comments was 265, and there were only 33 negative comments. However, negative comments had higher quality, higher average quality, and also higher average specificity. So for specificity, we are looking at, do they mention the specific behavior? Do they mention what the motive was for that behavior and what's the effect of that behavior? And also whether they propose some kind of change for the future and what is the goal for that specific change. So in negative comments, they are more specific than in positive comments. We also looked at what the comments written on team videos are about, and they could be about the team, the whole team. They could be about some peers, or they could be about themselves. And most of the comments were about the team, 75%. Most of them were positive, a few negative comments. There were some comments about peers, but much less percentage, 21%. And about themselves, there are only 3.7% of comments. However, these comments, so if you look at, for example, team, most of the comments are positive. For peers, again, most of the comments are positive. When they write about themselves, it's almost half and half. So there are more negative comments in that particular situation, and their specificity is higher and the quality comment is higher. So I'll show you some examples of high quality comments. So for example, the first one, someone is talking how they interrupted someone else, and that's not good. Then another comment about themselves when they say, I don't listen enough about, to other people. And then 2 comments about the team. The first one is slightly negative, so they have more than one conversation happening at once, and that's not good. And it would be better to not repeat that kind of behavior in the future. And final comment is a positive team comment. I mentioned that we asked them in the final study about their perceptions, and these are some comments we received about that. So when we ask them about writing comments, they typically say they like the videos. They like the idea of having the videos. They don't have to search for them. They can learn soft skills. And this is an interesting comment as well. When all the circles are green and we close the tab. So this is basically about the dashboard. At the start, the dashboard is all gray, and then as they do more stuff in AVW-Space, they're becoming green. And you have seen this huge increase in engagement when we added the dashboard. Now about reviewing or rating comments, most of the feedback we received says it's useful because they can see what other people think about the videos, and maybe they miss something and other people have commented about that. And the last one even mentions a discussion-like environment, so different elements of social learning. We also asked them about how they feel about reviewing and rating team comments. Most of the comments, again, are positive. They talked about being able to reflect on their behavior, reflecting about the team, the different members of the team, and also a good tool to see how others perceived you as a team member. But I also want to point this last comment. This is the first time we have received any feedback like this, that some students might actually find it stressful to watch themselves in meetings. So that's a brief summary of the work we have done. We are currently conducting 2 studies, and we have many more studies planned. We are still developing new spaces for new soft skills. The current studies that I mentioned, we are adding explainable AI. So we are going to provide explanations for how the comment quality is determined and what it means. So that's happening in the next study. Another study is about adding recommendations, and that's basically for the social space. So in earlier studies, in the social space, when the students see comments written by the class, they would all see the same comments. So the teacher selects some comments to be shown in the social space, and everyone sees exactly the same comments. Now, the change that we are making now is to have comments recommended for students based on their student model. So if they have not covered one particular part of the domain, or they have written low quality comments for that part of the domain, they are likely to get comments that target that particular set of topics they're having trouble with. So right now we are conducting a new study in Engineering 101, looking at the effect of recommendations. And the other study is about gamification. So we have added a number of badges and looking at whether that's going to increase engagement with the platform. And a topic for the future research is to extend AVW-Space to support direct collaboration between students, because that's not happening at the moment. We have a little bit, we have changed the social space a little bit, so students can now write responses to comments, but we also want to extend it further so that they can discuss different comments or different elements of videos directly. Now, one part of our work is also developing instruments for assessing soft skills. On the team, we have a psychologist who is dealing with this kind of stuff, and we have developed an instrument for face-to-face communication and also one for empathy, and we are currently collecting data to be able to properly evaluate those instruments. And finally, we plan to conduct studies with software professionals. We do have a grant from the New Zealand government, which promises to improve soft skills for software professionals. So we are planning to conduct a number of studies in software companies in New Zealand to see whether there's going to be an effect of the learning that we provide. So finally, I would like to acknowledge other team members. As I mentioned, this all started by talking to Vanya Dimitrova. So we had a number of people from the University of Leeds, Amali from University of Adelaide, lots of people from Canterbury, including my colleagues Matthias and Sana, and lots of PhD students as well. So this work was funded by, initially Vanya had a grant from EU. I had a number of grants from New Zealand and my university, and this last grant is from the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment, and that's the one which allows us to further improve AVW-Space and conduct studies with software professionals. So I thank you for your attention, and if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for great overview on some empirically backed research on nudges guiding the quality of students' reflection and engagement. I'd be curious to hear a little bit more about your comments regarding the explainable AI work that you're doing. What does that look like specifically? What steps are you going through on this? Because as you're aware, with the current iteration of LLMs and generative AI, there's this flurry of questions around what's happening, what's it doing, can we trust it? Would you share more about how you're adopting an explainable AI model to your nudging approaches?
Yes, so the current work we are doing, so first of all, we collected some feedback from students in previous studies since we introduced the comment quality and nudges on comment quality. And students are curious about that. So we have received feedback from engineering student saying, how is my comment quality determined? What does it mean? And that's the first kind of explanation we want to add. So the comment qualities you have seen, we show them green, yellow, or red based on the quality of the comment, and there would be different types of explanations for the different types of comment qualities, and they will be including several features that are used to determine the comment quality. So how long the comment is, what kind of domain concepts they use in the comment, whether it's self-reflective or is just repeating what's from the video. So that's one type of explanation that we are going to include in the next study, but we haven't done that yet, as I mentioned. That's the plan. I see there's some questions in the chat.
Yes, feel free if you want to read them. That might be easier if you want to read and respond.
Why are we just studying soft skills videos? So as I mentioned, that was our initial goal. Both Vanya and I have developed a number of AI ad systems for cognitive skills, and we wanted to target the soft skills because we see from our courses that there is a lot of trouble our students have when they talk to each other, present, that kind of stuff. So that was the motivation. However, AVW-Space is domain agnostic, so it doesn't matter. It could be used for any type of content. We have just used it for soft skills. Now, AVW-Space is open. If anyone wants to use it, we are more than happy to have other people use it. And we had other people use it for different kind of courses, ranging from high school to university courses on a variety of domains, not only for soft skills, but there were, for example, there was one course on music appreciation. There was, it could be any kind of content. There's a question.
I think you answered one of the questions Anja had around, Anne asked about you plan to open source the technologies that you've developed, and so it looks like you already have.
It's open access at the moment. It's not open source, but we are going to do that in the future. There's also a question about the gains. So when we compared, for example, in Engineering 101, when we compared what happens when we add more and more nudges, because this is a very, very large course, more than 1,000 students, what we have done is we use the previous class as a control. And when we add, for example, quality nudges, then the new class is the experimental group and compared it that way. Okay, let's see. Do we see improved presentation skills? Okay, so let me go back to that one. So Engineering 101, they do give presentations at the very end of the course, but it's a group presentation. So each student talks for 1 minute. And of course, that's not enough time. The best way to evaluate whether their soft skills really improve would be to have a human expert observe them, so before and after. And of course, that's not realistic in a class with more than 1,000 students. We assume that if people have more conceptual knowledge about a particular soft skill, that would also affect how they present those soft skills. Now, in the studies that we are going to do with software professionals, we are going to include several ways of assessing soft skills. One of them is the instruments that we are developing at the moment. But of course, the instruments, they are self-reports. And we know how what that means. People are usually kind to themselves when they do self-assessment. But we are also going to include peer assessment and assessment made by, for example, the project leader or their manager. So to have different kinds of assessment included. I think that's all of the questions. I don't see any other questions. How do we get access to AVW-Space? Just email me and I can give you, we have different types of accounts. So we have accounts for students, we have accounts for teachers, and also admin accounts for ourselves. We do have a tutorial that goes through the process of establishing a space for teachers, and I would be more than happy to have other people use it.
Great. Well, thanks very much, Professor Mitrovic. I think it's been a great overview of practical examples of how AI and AI supportive technologies can help make the learning process more impactful and also make them more human in the sense that you're teaching individuals how to engage and how by engagement to become more capable as learners. So I think it's a fantastic example. So thanks very much for your time, and thanks everyone who joined. All the best.